This is the Rich Dad StockCast with Andy Tanner, the show that kicks 401ks in the asphalt and teaches you to be the master of your own stock investing domain. And here's your host, Greg Arthur.
Welcome to Rich Dad StockCast. Once again, you're going to hear from Andy Tanner, but he's going to tell us a little something different. He's going to actually tell us things that he likes. And what triggered this was having a conversation with Robert Kiyosaki. And he got asked, what are the 7 best ways to make money? And Robert, he just started rattling off all these things, and he didn't list stocks as one of them. So what we wanted to do is represent stocks with a very similar question. So I asked Andy, what's the best way to make money with stocks? And his answer was, well, shoot, Greg, there's like a million ways. And he just started just going crazy with ways. So I was like, whoa. Give me your best 3 ways. And so that's where we decided to make a little podcast on that, because who else to learn from than the very guy that educates Robert on this? So we thought we'd bring back Andy Tanner to tell us the best 3 ways he makes money in the stock market. So welcome, Andy.
How you doing, Greg? It's so good to be here. I can't tell you how I enjoy our conversations each week. It's really, really fun.
Well, I hope the listeners enjoy it. And even more than that, I hope that they're learning every week. I know I am.
Awesome.
So Andy, what are your top 3 ways to make money in the stock market?
You know, I think to set context around that question, when people ask Robert, and this could be an entirely different podcast we should probably do, is when they say, what are the best ways to make money? That depends on a person. It really does. If you're LeBron James, real estate's probably not your best way. Your best opportunity. Donovan Mitchell just signed a $200 million contract with the Jazz over 5 years. He's probably going to make more money doing that over 5 years than he is investing in stocks from where he was, right? So it really depends on what quadrant you're best suited for, and what your strengths are, what your personality is. And so when it comes to my favorite ways to make money, probably my favorite asset class, as I like them all, is I really love business, because I've had a lot of businesses fail, which were very, very painful, but I've had a couple that have worked out, and they're the most lucrative thing you can do. For example, as an author, I can put a book on Kindle on what I do, and that doesn't cost anything. It's electronic. And so the ROI on that, I could never get in real estate. I could never get in stocks or even most businesses. So it just depends on, what you're good at. If you're a good teacher, write books. When it comes to stock market, I'll tell you that, like you say, it's hard to pick, because there are so many ways. I don't know if there's a million ways, but there are dozens and dozens of different ways to use stocks and options. But let's say this. It's going to be a combination of 6 things. Buy an option, or buy a stock or sell a stock. Those are 2 things you can do with stock, is buy them or sell them. Buy a call option, sell a call option. Buy a put option, sell a put option. So those are 6 things you can do. But when you weave them together into, how many different combinations could you have, and different ratios of those could you have? And that gets very, very exciting. But for the person who is new, or even the person who's been around and hasn't thought about it for a while, I would say the easiest way to earn money in the stock market is really just buying a stock as a business and enjoying a dividend. Now, before someone, is tempted to say, well, that doesn't sound exciting. Well, you can look at excitement a couple of ways. How hard was it to do? Right. Or how much money do you make? Let's say you're Warren Buffett and you own Coca-Cola, and you get, I don't know, let's say, I don't even know what the number is. Let's say you got $100 million a year just by owning some shares. And you have that every year. It went up, over time, not because the stock price went up, but because, Coke gets more expensive and they keep coming up with more drinks to sell us, like water, like Dasani water, amazing. Coke is starting to make money by selling water, which is the base ingredient of Coke, They basically took all the other ingredients out of Coke and started selling water. So that's pretty cool. So that would be one we should talk about. So we'll talk about dividends. The second thing is I love selling covered calls. So that is a combination of owning a stock and making someone a promise that you'll sell their stock to them. It goes up really, really, really high. That's a favorite. And then one that I usually teach first is what we call a cash covered put. Some people call it a naked put, but it's really cash covered most of the time because you're wanting to promise cash to buy a stock that you want anyway. So we'll talk about those three. And, when I teach my sons how to do this, those are the three. So let's take dividends from something people perceive as unexciting to exciting first. But any thoughts on those first three?
So I will tell you that your second one is the one that not only makes the most sense to me. It sounds to me like it cash flows real well. It sounds super safe. So that's the covered option. So I really like that one. And I'm right with you on dividends. That seems so slow, so boring. It seems like it's going to take 50 years just to break even. And so, man, 50 years locking my money up, I think I'd rather be doing something else like the covered calls with my money instead of locking it up and just not even thinking about it.
I think the magic comes when you take all three of those strategies and combine them. That's why I started with my sons that way. So let me give you an example. My son is 14 years old, and he's here doing coronavirus felt like a good year to just bring him home. And we didn't homeschool him at home through the computer. We actually, for my older boy, Zachary, we're teaching 100% financial education. And the very first trade we had him make is he had a stock that was about $32, and it paid about a 5% dividend right out of the gate. So, someone's saying, well, I want, 20%. Well, that's fine, but watch what he does. So he sold a put, which means I had some cash that I was willing to buy a stock with. So let's just, he did 100 shares, but let's just do one share for simplicity.
Okay.
Says I have $32 in my account, from selling lemonade all these years as a kid. I got $32 in my account. I'm going to promise to buy this stock from someone at 32. And that's about where the price was. And it's really interesting that you can take a price and you can add, a certain amount of money. In this case, he added about $1, okay, about 90 cents. We'll call it $1. He added $1 right there to buy it at the price it was already at. Okay. And so that happens. So think about that. Where most people were paying 32, his cost basis was 31. So if it paid a 5% dividend, now for him, it's a little over that 5% because he got $1 off. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But the options that he used, that he spent the $1 on, isn't that a very limited time?
Yeah, he sold that option and received $1, and that's not a year, that's a month. So in 1 month, his cost basis, he could have just bought it at 32, but by promising to buy it at 32, he gets paid $1. Now, it could have gone down, and that would have been his liability. Let's say it goes down to 30, he would have had to pay 32. But he knew in his mind, he's now guaranteed to get it at 31 net, right? Spend 32 to get it, get $1 to do that. So he knew for sure it was going to go down at least 1 if he was going to own the stock. The other thing that could happen is if it goes up, he doesn't get his stock, but you know what? He just made $1 on 32 in a month, which is, a phenomenal ROI annualized. Okay, now he's in it. What he can do now is he can look at the behavior of that stock historically, and he might be able to go up, 34, 35, 36, and make a promise to sell his stock way high. And it's probably not going to get there. We can actually use the computer and get not a guarantee, but an estimate of what percentage chance. And we like about, an 85% chance it won't get there.
Right.
So if it does, you made a ton of money on your stock and you can start the process over and buy back in. But most of the time we like to dangle that carrot out where people just fall short. And he might get 30 cents for doing that. Okay. So in 3 months, down another $1. And my son was pretty quick to do this. He says, Dad, if I keep writing covered calls on this stock that I own out of the money where it's not likely to get taken, and I get the dividend and figured in, that entire stock will be paid for in about 7 years. Now, that's a really important number because some people say, well, I don't want to wait 7 years. Daddy, I want an Oompa Loompa now, type of attitude.
Yeah, well, that would be me.
I want an Oompa Loompa now. But I will tell you that, for someone who's 14, 7 years is 21 years old.
Right.
And if that continues to be the case, and there might be hiccups along the way, but if that continues to be the case, my son is at an infinite rate of return on that dividend because he no longer has any money in the deal. All the money he put in, that whole original 32 is now back with him that can be allocated now in other assets. And that's a pretty cool way to do things because now him, his kids, my great-great-grandkids can inherit that stock, and the dividend will probably go nowhere but north if it's a company that'll be around for a while. A company like Apple, they'll probably get bigger, not smaller. Even companies like Coca-Cola, I think the globe is addicted to that Coca-Cola. A lot of people have tried to dethrone them. Pepsi's been trying for years. Tab gave it a shot. You just don't dethrone that. That's what people like. So the idea of getting paid by owning a company, that's true investing, isn't it? Where I'm buying stock to own a company. I really don't care about what the stock price is at that point. It's now a family heirloom that just creates new cash. Who cares what the stock, anyone who sells it becomes the family idiot, that becomes the turncoat. Right. What are you selling off the family assets for? That thing, great-great-grandpa Zach Tanner bought it at 32. And now it pays us, 32 a year in dividend or whatever it may be, 100 years down the road. So the reason I like that, Greg, is it builds not only, my income or my son's income, you can build a legacy for your family. And I think that so many people have jobs are worried about themselves that the idea of legacy is not even a luxury they have. It's one of the reasons I hate 401ks is a 401k conversation is usually like, okay, how much are you going to need in retirement before you die? Can we get enough to where it doesn't run out before you die? This is, I live in a wonderful country, I think, and many people around the world live in a country where, you're free to start a business or own a business. If you're free to own something, build a legacy for your family. So you saw all three of those in harmony with each other, right, in concert with each other. And as he earns more money in a business or earns more money at a job or whatever he decides to do, he will keep doing this. And a portion of his income will always go into selling a put to drop that cost basis, buy a stock. My cost basis, his cost basis, he started that process in September or in August rather. So August, September, October, November, December, 5 months. He's already shaved $3 off that cost basis. His cost basis has gone from 32 to 29. You see how fast that happens?
Yeah, I do.
So he figures within about 5 to 7 years, it'll be paid for. So what's not to like about that? And someone says, well, I don't want to wait 5 to 7 years. Well, if you give Kenny McElroy $1 million on a housing project, he's going to say it's going to be about 5 to 7 years before we can refinance this and get you your money back to you.
Right.
To where you can own it free and clear. He says it'll take about 5 to 7 years to refinance that. So the timeline is actually very, very similar to what someone like Robert would be attracted to in real estate. Difference is, you give your money to Kenny, you don't think about it for 7 years.
Right.
Zach will think about this every month for 7 years, but it's usually once a month he has to think about it. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. But Warren Buffett himself will tell you that's how he acquired his Coca-Cola. Many of his shares he acquired that way. He wrote naked puts on Coca-Cola, and that lowered his cost basis with that premium.
So a couple things. He wrote naked puts on dividend stocks.
Yeah.
But also, this could be a retirement strategy because, like you said, if you can pay it off in 5 to 7 years and you have enough of this would be a legitimate retirement strategy.
Yeah.
But I have one question for you. You said you looked at the charts to figure out the highs and lows of the stock so that when you chose how to price your options, you would make it where the chances are people will be unsuccessful.
Yeah.
How far do you look at the chart? Do you look at a 3-month chart, a 1-year chart, a 3-year chart?
You can really look at it. You could even look at it in something called, I don't want to get too technical with people, but a poor man's way to do it is to look at something called the delta of the option. If an option has a delta of 15, you can pretty much guess there's probably only a 15% chance that option would be in the money at the end of the month. So, it's really more about, it doesn't really matter if it's daily, weekly, whatever. You look at a standard deviation in that month of time. So let's say you have a month you're going to make that promise for. What's the standard deviation? And you use that as a benchmark, and then you get outside of that.
Gotcha.
And you don't get greedy with it, but you'll be surprised how those things add up. Another thing that is really fun is you mentioned only doing on dividend stocks. I will do this not only on stocks that don't pay dividends, but stocks that are not optionable. I'll give you an example. I look at the Bitcoin ETF, and right now, the Bitcoin ETF is about, it's probably 1/100th of a Bitcoin or something like that. It's
right.
$20 or something. And I buy into that because someday that's going to be optionable, most likely. I can't guarantee it. The thing about this, one strike out for a lot of options, one strike out of the money, pay about 1%. But if I buy it now before it's not optionable, let's say I buy it today at 20 and it goes to 40, my cost basis is 20. The option premium will reflect the protection of a $40 price where my cost was only 20. Now that's going to take if people don't understand that, they need to take the 4 pillars of investing class, because we might be getting out of some people's purview.
Right.
Think about this. If I own something at 20 and the options at the money are being paid to protect the price at 40, that gives me a huge advantage where I can now sell strikes that are further and further likely to be in the money, but my cost basis. So it's the same idea as the option, or the same idea as the dividend.
Except that
So that's pretty cool.
You're kind of banking on Bitcoin one being around, and you're also banking on the value of the dollar declining in order for Bitcoin to raise its price.
Which is the same thing you're banking on with any business, right? I'm banking that Coke will still be around, right? I'm banking that First Solar will still be around. I'm banking that Apple will still be around. I'm banking that real estate will still be around, which it probably always will. And also with real estate, if you're going to borrow money or invest money if you're going to be part of one of Kenny's projects and you want to invest your money, he's using your money as about 20%, 25% of that purchase price. He's using debt for the other 75. And for that to be successful, the dollar has to go down. He's not going to refinance that if the dollar goes up, because if the dollar goes up, rents fall. Right. And if rents fall, NOI falls. And if NOI falls, cap rate falls. And if cap rate falls, the value of that business falls. So you're really betting on inflation in whatever you do, whether it's business, real estate, stocks, because inflation causes prices to go higher. And that's what business owners want, whether you're, expecting that to be rents or the price of a can of Coke or whatever. So
right.
We actually just be clear, want inflation.
Yeah, and that is a safe bet, because the United States government, they'll even tell you that they want to manipulate it to make sure it goes up at least 2.2% a year.
That's their desire. Now, notice they're having a hard time doing that. And the reason I'm having a hard time doing that is we have a lot of deflationary pressures. You know, people say, oh, we're bound for hyperinflation because the dollar is being printed like crazy. Well, the truth of it is, if there's a lot of deflationary pressure, which was the depression in the 1929 crash in the 30s, that was depression is deflation. It's a depression, not an inflation. And if people, we saw this in the coronavirus, if people start losing their jobs, they hoard money, and money becomes more valuable than goods or services to them, right? They say, well, I'd rather save my money for a rainy day than spend it. If they stop spending money, that means it's more valuable to them than the goods. So what do you have to do to get them to part with the money? You lower the price of the goods. And so technology is deflationary. Jeff Booth talked about this. An iPhone does a lot more now than mobile phones did in the 1990s. You get a ton for about the same price or lower price. Think of all your phone does. Jeff makes a great analogy there. You know, inflation is about freeing up time. And so now computers do more for us. We're getting more for our money than they did before. So there's a lot of deflationary pressure. So we can't just, I think you're right that the bet on inflation is a good bet. And if there's one bet I would make, it is on inflation. It's the bet I'm making. But we're fighting deflationary pressures all the time. So my favorite 3 ways, you know, it's hard to choose. It's like saying, what's your 3 favorite rock bands? You know, it's tough. Who's your 3 favorite basketball players? It's tough. But as far as what I teach beginners and my son, learn how to get income in the click of a mouse by promising to buy something you were going to buy anyway. At least learn what that opportunity looks like before someone poo-poos it. You know, if it's good enough for Buffett, who's the richest guy investor in the world. Now, business owners like Bezos have more money than him, but they started a business. Buffett never started a business. He bought one. If you're clever enough to start a business, go start a business. If you're clever enough, that might be the best asset for you, but you better know how to sell, and you better be a great leader, and you better be an inspiration to your team around you, and you better be able to innovate and keep your product out there long term. Those are hard things for the average person to do with a high school or college education, right?
Right.
A lot of those gifts, you know, leadership. I mean, if you weren't a born leader, it takes a while to learn how to become a leader. If you have a high tolerance for debt and a great real estate education, that might be best for you. If you don't have those things and you're already in a 401k, you're already invested in stocks, maybe you learn a smarter way to get exposed to those upsides than paying fees. Think about this, Greg. If I get in a 401k, I buy equities, you know, mutual funds, whatever, but they're equities. Okay. I'm paying someone to do that for me.
Right.
I'm paying to buy them. When I sell a naked put or a cash covered put, I'm getting paid to buy the same equity. So think about that. If you spend your whole life paying to buy equities, and you have Buffett over here who gets paid to buy equities, over your lifetime, that'll probably be a significant difference. One doesn't require education, one does.
Right.
And neither are guaranteed for success, which means you got to be smart.
So I realize that's why you provide your education and you've created your courses. But I know we're on our last couple of minutes. I didn't fully get something, and so
Yeah.
and I realize I'm not the smartest guy here. So hopefully we have some dumb listeners too, so I don't feel so bad. But can you just go real quick, just real fast through your analogy with your son, and stop at various places and say, okay, this is where the dividends was, this is where the covered call was, and this is where the naked put is, so that because I got a little lost and I really didn't see the naked put part.
Well, I prefer the term cash covered put, because naked is when you made a promise you can't keep, right? Naked is when you promise to sell something you don't own.
Right.
And he's basically promised to give up money that he has.
Okay. So it's a covered put.
I prefer the term cash covered put, because let's start over. He has $32 in his account. That means he can promise to spend $32 on a stock, and he's covered. Now, if he had zero money in his account and he promised to spend $32, that'd be more naked to me, right? You're making promises you can't keep.
Yep.
But he absolutely had the money. So think of it this way. A listener, you yourself, Greg, let's say you have $100 in your account and there's $100 stock you want to buy. And maybe there's a $5 premium on that. So you say, look, I have $100 in my account. I'm willing to buy that share of your stock at $100, but you got to pay me $5 to make that promise over the month. So you just made a 5% return immediately.
Okay.
Right?
And
push a button.
And that's called,
that's pause. That's a cash covered put.
Okay. And before that,
the skill you got to have a mouse. You got to be able to click it, and that $5 comes to you. That's it. Click, $5. There it is.
And a little intelligence. But wait. Before that, when you decided which stock you wanted to do this cash covered put with, you picked a stock that had dividends because that was the step one. So step one was
we found a stock
with dividend.
And we found a stock that had good, our first pillar is fundamental analysis, right?
Right.
So how do you pick that stock? Well, the same way a bank chooses to loan money to people. They look at their financial statements. So the bank gets 1,000 financial statements in and they say, which ones we loan money to? The most healthy ones. The rest of them, we say, no, we won't loan you the money. You have too bad a credit. You good credit people have good balance sheets and no debt and low debt, we'll loan you money because we think we'll get it back. We do the same thing. We look at companies that are strong, that are growing, that, Apple has one of the best balance sheets in the world. They're fantastic, right? They're very, very strong. They have hundreds of billions of dollars in cash to do whatever they want with R&D, whatever they want to do, pay dividends with it. So they're a very strong company. So we like companies like that.
Okay. So then I'll take it a step back. You use your fundamentals to find a stock that has two properties, dividend and also the ability to buy and sell through options.
I certainly prefer dividend. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So we picked that stock. Then he promises to buy it with money he has in the bank. So this is the cash covered put.
Yep.
Okay. Then what happens?
Then three things can happen. The stock could go up, down, or sideways. If the stock goes up above what you promised to pay for it, that guy's not going to sell it cheap to you. So you keep your premium.
Okay.
And rinse and repeat, right? Okay. Rinse and repeat. If it stays the same, that's the ideal scenario because now you get to buy the stock. You got paid to buy it at the price it was, and you're set, right? You're ready to go to the next step. If it goes down, that's okay. They usually don't go down too far. Yeah, you're going to pay more for the stock than what it originally was. But you know what? You took a bird in the hand rather than two in the bush. And of course, you're not thinking about a dip this month or next month. You're thinking my grandkids are going to inherit this.
Right.
It's really not going to bother me if I pay a couple dollars more for it. If I had a little dip, yeah, I'm a little bummed. But hey, think about it. A month ago, I was willing to pay that price and even higher. So I'm still paying lower than I would have paid a month ago, right? I mean, let's say it's $100 and you buy it today with no premium. You just spent $100. Now it's 95 a month later. Right. Well, you're no worse off than you were before, right?
Right.
But if you get paid $5, now you got a $5 cushion, right? So it's all about reducing cost basis. Once a person understands reducing cost basis, the light bulb hits them. It's like, wait, I keep selling options of any kind. What I will also do, Greg, is I'll start building a position small. And once I own it, I'll do a put and call on it and work both sides.
Okay, so wait. Before we get that complicated.
Yeah. See, there we go. Yeah. There we go.
We used the fundamentals. We found the dividend stock. Then we did the cash covered put.
Yep.
Now you own the stock, and now you're looking at how much the stock actually moves up and down, and you're selling options based on the numbers that you got that keep the stock from missing the price you're selling it at.
Let's say now we own the stock, right? We own the stock. Well, now I would say the next thing is every quarter we give a dividend on it now, right?
Right.
So that's rolling now. So let's say it's a 5% dividend. That's a really good dividend. So we're starting with a 5% ROI out of the gate, right?
Right.
Now what we want to do is get more money out of that, which will reduce our cost basis, which increases our investor yield on that dividend. Okay.
Right.
So
and
this is
jargon. By selling options on it.
I do that by selling options. So then I look at that stock you bought for $100, and I see that based on standard deviations, maybe there's like a 15% chance it might hit 110. that month,
Okay.
maybe a 15% chance, not a very good chance.
Right.
I'll promise someone to sell it at that high price. Now that's really cool, because if it hits it, you know, and I get my stock called away, I just made a ton of money in the stock and I can buy back in. That's start over again.
Right.
I can buy back that call and roll it up. There's a lot of, I mean, you know, you wish you could just simplify it. You know, there's so many things you can do. And that's why when people say, Andy, give me a silver bullet, you know, tell me the one thing I can do without any work. I can't do it. I can't tell my mom I do, because the question is, do you want to study? And for most people, the answer is, oh, I don't want to have to study. But those that do, the advantage I have in being able to adjust and manipulate, know what to do, whatever happens, is awesome, right? So yeah, you sell that thing, it's like dangling a carrot. Say, hey, I'll give this to you for 110. I'll give it to you 110. They give you a wee little premium. Those premiums add up. And so, you know, every single month I can click that mouse and have people make me promises, or I can make promises, and it helps me get a little bit more control over things. And it reduces your cost basis. What can I say?
Okay, so to wrap up, there's two things. You showed us the 3 strategies you blend together.
Yeah.
And so I get the very high level of it. But the other thing I learned is I really got to get way more educated before I even try that.
I would agree. And I would practice in a paper account first.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, I really appreciate it.
Awesome,
I
Greg.
definitely learned a ton.
Yeah. And if people are interested in that, you know, reach out to me. You know, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to help people out. And we have lots of channels to do that. They can always reach out to you guys and get in touch with me.
Andy, I don't know if you know this, but in the show descriptions, we should probably tell people this. We have in there a lot of the free webinars that you've done for free education. And we also have your book, How to Escape the Rat Race, so that people can read that and get more knowledgeable. And then if they want to take it even further, I added the link to your courses so that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I think people, good to me. Yeah, I think people definitely, when they hear this stock, I'm assuming they're like me and they realize how cool the investing in the stock market is, but that in order to do it, you really got to get more education.
That's the truth with business, real estate, stocks, or commodities. And I think that'd be a great discussion to have. You know, maybe next time we talk about that context, because what you'll really find is your success is not going to be a function of which asset class you choose. It's going to be a function of the investor, not the investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we can talk about that another day.
All right. That's the deal, Andy.
Awesome.
Once again, appreciate you.
Thanks, Greg.
All right. Talk to you later.